What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. In this one, I'm going to go over my 5 worst values at the running back position. Like I said in the previous videos, I just finished up my projections and rankings, so it's been fun to sort of look through those and see which players I have ranked higher and lower than consensus, and then sort of see if those make sense. So yeah, I'll be going over these. If you haven't watched any other ones, I've got the best values at the running back position, as well as the best and worst values at the wide receiver position out already. And shortly after this, I'll be releasing the best and worst values at the tight end and quarterback positions. So if you haven't seen those, please do take a minute to go watch those. There's no particular order you have to watch them in at all, but I think they'll be really helpful. And if you find any value in any of these, please do feel free to leave a comment, ask me any questions you have in the comments. I love interacting with you guys and love to sort of bounce ideas back and forth as well. So yeah, with that, let's get into the video. The first running back that I find myself significantly lower on than ADP is Jonathan Taylor. This one was a bit surprising for me because of how much I really do believe Jonathan Taylor is an elite talent. But despite that, I couldn't find a way to make the numbers check out so that he actually ends up being that top 5 running back that he's being drafted as. I just think it's really difficult for this Colts offense to put up points this season. It shouldn't be a shock to us for us to expect them to be really not that great this year. They were bad last year, and now they've got a rookie quarterback, so there's no reason to really assume that this offense is going to take a huge step forward this season from last season. And on top of that, Anthony Richardson at quarterback is going to limit a lot of scoring opportunities for him around the goal line. We've seen plenty of scenarios with rushing quarterbacks where they sort of steal goal line work. You can think about Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, and to make that even worse, we've got the Colts head coach coming over from Philadelphia as their offensive coordinators. We've seen what the Eagles do when they get near the goal line, especially if they get to that 1 yard line. I think you're going to see a lot of that QB sneak stuff that we saw with Jalen Hurts last season. It's really going to limit the ability for Jonathan Taylor to get as many goal line touchdowns as he has in the past. So, like the season he was running back one on the season, he had 20 total touchdowns. It's going to be really tough for him to produce that. And for him then to make up for that, he's going to have to catch a lot of passes. And that's something that's just really not going to happen with a mobile quarterback. Mobile quarterbacks tend to really not pass the ball very much to the running back because when things break down, they'd rather just take off themselves. And I actually gave him a pretty decent target share. I gave him a 12% target share in my model. I'm giving him a total of 36 receptions this season, so that's actually pretty good. That's more than he had last season. That's 4 less than he had in his running back one campaign. And I'm still giving him something around 1,100 yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. So I think he'll be fine, but I think it's just going to be really difficult for him to really produce these top tier running back numbers. So in general, I think he's going to end up being like a low end running back one, but I just can't find myself spending up on him like his cost is. Next up, I've got Travis Etienne. I have him currently ranked as my running back 24, despite a consensus ADP of running back 12. And I think there's a lot of good reasons for this, actually. He was extremely inefficient on the goal line last season. He really just, I think he converted something like 17% of his goal to go carries into the end zone. So that's really atrocious. That's far lower than the NFL average. And he actually rated super poorly as a pass catcher as well. He had a super low PFF rating. He only had a 7.8% target share, which is honestly really bad for a player who really came into the NFL projecting to be a really great pass catcher. And the Jaguars spent a 3rd round draft pick on Tank Bigsby, who I think is actually a really decent player, and he's likely going to steal a lot of touches in both of those areas from Travis Etienne. He's going to get a lot of the goal line work. He's a lot bigger than Travis Etienne, and on top of that, he's actually a pretty good receiver and pretty good pass catcher or pass protector as well. So I think you're going to see Travis Etienne pretty much split snaps. I'd expect Etienne to still get the majority of the running back carries here, but there's a real concern for me that Travis Etienne's going to come off the field in goal line situations, and he's maybe not going to be used on 3rd down as much. So it's really tough for a running back to produce running back one value when he's not being utilized a ton in the passing game and he's not getting goal line work. So I don't see a world really where Travis Etienne produces running back one numbers unless he's just extremely efficient, which is possible. He was a really good runner. He averaged about 5 yards per carry last season. It's certainly possible that he could just be so efficient that it doesn't really matter that he's missing out on these opportunities, but that's just not something that I can project. And really, there's just too many weapons on this offense in general. I expect them to be really pass heavy with Trevor Lawrence and how many good pass catchers they have. So it's going to be tough for Travis Etienne to get too many touches. He'll probably get about 15 touches a game, probably catch around 30 passes this season. That's just not going to be enough for me to make him a running back one. So I'd stay away from Travis Etienne if you can. Next up here, I've got BREECE Hall. This one was really hard for me because I actually do think he's a really elite talent, but I've currently got him ranked as my running back 17 despite an ADP of running back 11, and I think there's a lot of reasons for this. He's likely not going to start the season at 100%. We often see these players when they come back from brutal injuries like this. It takes them a little bit into the season to really come back and be full health. I've seen a lot of people suggesting that come the second half of the season, he's going to be a lot healthier than he is at the start of the season, and to couple that, he's got a really brutal schedule to start the season. Obviously, it's sort of tough to project NFL schedules. You really never know exactly how great these NFL teams are each and every year. But if you just look at these teams that they're playing, they've got a really difficult schedule. Go take a look at it. I think it's not unreasonable to expect the Jets to start out something like 2-4, 3-5. They're going to have a really rough start to the season, I believe. And on top of that, they've got a new quarterback, a new system. It's going to be difficult for this team to really start hot, I think. So I think that's going to make BREECE Hall more of a player that I'd like to not draft and let other owners get frustrated with and then sort of trade for him towards the middle of the season. Because I do think BREECE Hall is going to have a really strong second half of the season. But you're currently spending like a third-round draft pick on him, and in some leagues you're spending a second-round draft pick on him. That's just too much for me to spend on a player that I don't think is going to be super useful for me at the start of the season. And you know, how useful is it for you if BREECE Hall comes back strong in the second half, but you're 2-6 at the start of your fantasy season because he was awful? So I personally would like to stay away from him. I think he's going to finish somewhere around RB15 this season, but he'll have a much slower start and then a much hotter finish towards the tail half of the season. So I'd try and trade for him in the middle of the year, and I wouldn't really draft him if you can. Next for me is Kenneth Walker. I've currently got him ranked as my running back 21 despite an ADP of running back 15. And this one made me really sad as well because I'm in a keeper league where I have Kenneth Walker, and I'm still going to have to keep him because I got him super late last season, but I don't see that running back one upside that I was hoping for. He's still an elite talent, but the Seahawks just sort of made us a little sad here by taking Zach Charbonnet in the second round. Zach Charbonnet is just a good running back too. He's good enough to steal work in the passing game and at the goal line potentially. He is technically bigger than Kenneth Walker as well, and he's definitely a better pass catcher. So despite the fact that it's certainly possible that Kenneth Walker just beats out Zach Charbonnet because he's just maybe the better player, I can't project it like that. I'd still give Kenneth Walker the majority of the carries. I gave him 65% of the running back carries, and I gave him 55% of the goal line work, but I had to give Charbonnet a much larger target share. So given that Kenneth Walker is going to have to split some of these rushing touchdowns with Charbonnet, and he's likely going to lose out on that passing game work, in PPR formats, it's just really hard for me to see much of a ceiling for Walker unless he produces a spike touchdown season. And it's just going to be hard for him to do that. So despite the fact that I really do love Kenneth Walker, the player, I just don't see him putting up top-tier running back numbers this season. I just prefer to draft other guys around his ADP. Last up, I've got Dameon Pierce. This is the player that I've got kind of buried in my rankings, surprisingly. I've got him ranked at my running back 37, despite an ADP of running back 20. And this is weird because I actually think Dameon Pierce is a really good player. I statted him out for 5 yards per carry. I think he's just not going to be in position where I can really expect him to succeed. The Texans' offense is just honestly going to be really brutal. They're being led by a rookie quarterback, and although I do like CJ Stroud, I just don't see this being a team that's really going to put up even top 20 offensive numbers this season. So it's going to be really tough for him to really succeed there. He's not going to get a spike touchdown season just because there won't be very many opportunities there. And on top of that, the Texans spent pretty decent money on Devin Singletary. This is the Texans coaching staff that wasn't here last year, so Singletary is actually the guy that they did bring to the team. I do think Dameon Pierce is obviously the better player there, but I still expect it to be a near 50-50 split. I think I projected Pierce for 55% of the running back carries, and I think I projected a 50-50 split in the receiving game for the two. So it makes it difficult for Dameon Pierce to really put up elite numbers here because he's going to be splitting work in an offense that's just not going to be very good. So I think running back 37 actually makes a lot of sense. If there were a scenario where Devin Singletary missed time, then Dameon Pierce would have obviously a much higher ceiling here. But assuming both players are healthy, they're both good enough to get carries in an offense that just isn't very good. So I don't see myself drafting much of Dameon Pierce at all, and I don't think you should either. So that'll do it for this video. Up next, I'll be bringing you guys my best quarterback values, and then I'll be following that up with the worst quarterback values, and then subsequently the tight end and best and worst values there. So if this was your first time watching the video on the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Hope you got something from it. If you did get anything out of the video, please do take a minute to like the video. You can subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. I'm going to be putting out at least 2 videos a week throughout the course of the off season, then we'll ramp up when we get into the season as well. So really love making these videos. It's super exciting, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time.